Dr. Barry, London News, Melbourne. I'd like to show you a little clip of a video. I came across this young lady, Katie McGrath, in Cork, Southern Ireland, and I was so impressed I had to have a chat with this young lady. So let's go and have a look at her video, and then we'll carry on into our interview. Thanks for watching London News. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Information and ID cards is at the end of the video. Bye for now.
Denied entry also.
Nazism!
Nazis, yeah.
Nazism!
On Wednesday night last, the Dáil voted in a Frankenstein piece of legislation giving absolute power to one individual similar to Hitler's Enabling Act of 1933. The media were not silent but compliant. They provided cover for an attempt to rush through this legislation without due process. They did not question or criticise the content of the legislation, and true to form, the independent newspaper labelled the hundreds of people gathered outside the convention centre as just anti-maskers, while deflecting from the enormity of the situation unfolding inside the convention centre. To put this legislation into real-life context, I'll remind you of Pat Sweeney's story. Pat published his video of the Gardaí in breach of their oath of office as they targeted mass under the guise of public health. A week later, Pat woke up at 3 a.m. with 4 Gardaí standing around his bed. They arrested Pat under the Mental Health Act, claiming they received a phone call from Pat's mother about the concern of the safety of his children. Pat's mother died in 1997.
Nazism!
Good evening, Dr. Barry in Melbourne. And it's 9:10 here at night. I'm going over to Ireland to talk to young Katie there in Cork. And I believe Cork will be and shall be, or maybe, the last city to sink because it's made of cork. Have you heard that one before, Kate?
No, but it is built up on a marsh. So there is a chance of it sinking at some point.
Now, I just watched and I just had a little look at your speech, which I was absolutely very impressed with in relation to what's happening in Ireland and what's happening here. Our idiotic BS finishes tonight, Thursday night here in Melbourne. Tomorrow, the Simple Simon said, he's the premier, which is like the governor of a state. Simple Simon said that people can go out tomorrow, which is really, and sadly, just like in every other country, the majority of people are nothing more than cowards. They're such cowards. Like Simple Simon said on an app, wear a mask, or Simple Simon said you can go outside your area for a couple of hours, but if we tell you to put that mask on again, you will do it. So what's happening down there in Cork, in Southern Ireland, and how did you get involved?
Well, so thanks for taking an interest in what we're up to over here, Barry. It's nice to know that we're not alone, that people from abroad are keeping an eye on us. And it's interesting to see what's happening in Melbourne, because it's like looking at the future for Ireland, you know. What they do to you guys over there is what they do to us a couple of months later. So we witnessed you guys being let out of your little cage for a while into a bigger cage during the summer, and then they stuffed you guys back into the small cage with QR codes and tannoids and all sorts of things. So it's very difficult when you have a conscience to watch what's happening in the world and not do anything about it, you know. So a few different things happened in my life in the last year. During the first lockdown, I was trapped in just below the Arctic Circle for a few months, and I was watching from the fence what was happening in Ireland and going crazy that I couldn't be at home and be part of it. And when I finally got home, then I started going to protests at RTE, and from there then I guess I saw a lot of injustice happening, creeping into our society. I think it was always there, like, you know, the guards were pretty good at abusing the Public Order Act for quite a while, but it just became very mainstream. We could see it happening before our eyes. We knew what the government were doing to us. You know, the cat could tell you what the government was doing. And the media have been abusing us for generations, you know. and it just all became very, very obvious. So COVID-19 was basically the catalyst for change for a lot of people. Get them off the fence, stop hurling off of the ditch, and go do something. So I was handing out leaflets down in Tipperary town about warning people, trying to save lives. My partner and I, Dara O'Flaherty, I don't know if you've heard of him. But we were handing out leaflets trying to save lives and inform the public, which is our constitutional duty under such circumstances, warning them of the dangers to freedom, democracy, and bodily integrity with forced vaccinations and all that. When along came two Gardaí who were just out for their pound of flesh, they didn't know the law. And they abused it. They abused their authority, and as a result, we got pulled into the system, the court system. So that's where we're at the moment.
Right. Well, it's amazing. The only state in Australia that really got locked down to full extent is here in Victoria, because the Premier, by the way, which in America would be called the governor, it's allegedly that he fell over and hurt himself, but there's a lot of rumors that are going around that he got a really bad hiding. Now, I don't know that, of course, and neither do you, for that matter. But he's been off the scene for quite a long time now. But from his comfort of his bed, or wherever the heck he is, he decided he'd lock the state down for the last 2 weeks, because their extension emergency powers, which is an absolute farce. That law doesn't exist anyway. I think this act only applies to persons, and I'm not a person, I'm a man at this particular time. And women, it doesn't apply to you. But anyway, he decided he'd run it out before Parliament come into sitting again. This could be the last one, because there's the opposition, which they're all crooks for the simple reason they've all branch stacked to get people in, and they've branch stacked to get people out they don't like. So they've all committed little crimes inside their own political spheres, and they're all guilty. So like people shouldn't throw eggs in a glass or throw stones in a glass house. They're all in the same position. But Ireland has a reputation for standing up, and a lot of people stood up in 1916 and again up until in the 20s, and even had a civil war for the term freedom. And freedom is nothing more than God-given rights. And the average man and woman, both in both countries and in America more so, because they've given up, they've actually surrendered. I mean, Ireland's got fluoride in the water, and we have it here as well. But I have never drank I never drink tap water. In fact, I wouldn't even give it to my dog. So I think the fluoride, what do you reckon? You guys are drinking lots of fluoride over there.
Definitely, and the bad food and just the lifestyle where people are totally disconnected from themselves, Like when I lived under the Arctic Circle, I just completely, sorry, there's a rooster going crazy outside the window. I don't know if you're picking him up. But it was like a detox from all of that, and all this materialistic lifestyle and all that. So it was a good preparation for what we're living through right now, and it is really heartbreaking to see people who are driving along in their cars with their masks on alone. And like, we've been on the street talking to people quite a bit, and yeah, there is a cross section of society that's really lost. My generation, kind of from 30 to 50, they are so lost in this. The Celtic Tiger Cubs, because they've never experienced any real hardship in life. They don't believe that we could actually be in the clutches of such evil, and a lot of them haven't traveled. And, I went to Cuba a few years ago, and where you see the different levels of policing and how 3 generations have just been trapped on the island, and everyone's a hustler to survive and all that kind of thing. These, like the Irish people, a lot of them, they just don't believe that something like that is possible, but I'm seeing a lot of hope. I don't know, have you seen our young people out partying? They were last weekend, they took over Galway.
I call them the mask-wearing fools. What they don't realize, they're causing the deaths of a lot of people, business people committing suicide, men and women and people who cannot get medical attention because they can't get in to see doctors. Elective surgery is being cancelled. So an enormous amount of people have died, are in the process of dying. And these mask wearing fools just don't give us stuff. They're just worried about catching the bloody flu. They're not interested in anything you can tell them. And even if you paid them to watch a video that would explain things, they wouldn't do it. So they're selfish. I call them selfish bastards. I mean, really are. They're nothing more than and selfish cowards, because they do not give us stuff about the people who have suffered in businesses that have gone broke, all because they don't want to die. Well, I'm 75 years old and I'm going to die, but I don't give a stuff. I can't do nothing about it. And I cannot die till the day comes that God pulls the plug. So if you can get that message across to the Walking Dead in Ireland, well, the best of luck. Basically, Kate, what do you hope to try and get people to do in Ireland?
Well, it's like people are on a recovery program, a 10-step recovery program from being totally abused by the state and the media. And everyone's on the journey. And like a lot of the people who are in the same kind of mindset as ourselves, they have been awake for a while because a catalyst came to their life years ago and woke them up. But a lot of these people, they're on step 1 of the program where we're at step 10. And, you know, there's so much factual information and so many videos going around the place that people are actually drowning in information. But I looked into, you know, narcissistic abuse and cognitive dissonance and all that. There's a woman from Melbourne, actually, Tonia Evans, and she does great stuff on narcissistic abuse on YouTube. You'll see loads of stuff about it. And this cognitive dissonance, the fastest way through that is to ask somebody a question and have no attachment to the outcome. So like what I'm trying to do is to train people to ask questions where they get the person to open their mind instead of, you know, just shutting down. When people are confronted with facts and reality, the cognitive dissonance kicks in and you see the shutters coming down before you right in front of you. But if you ask a question, you're planting a seed, and then someone else in that person's life will come along and water it. That I've heard that so many times. You know, I know someone who's a hairdresser, and she had a couple of people come into her who said, oh, my son or my husband or my friend was on about that type of thing. So that's the seed opening and being watered by somebody else, you know, because we are like, it is frustrating and they are selfish bastards, but you can't think like that because you just annoy yourself, and it won't encourage them. Like I've heard people call them sheeple and stuff like that, and that's playing into the game of pawns where we're set up against them. Yeah. You know, like we're in psychological warfare. 95% of this is psychological warfare, and I'm always trying to think, how do we go around it, you know, rather than feed into it. And that's the Tonia Evans stuff is all about dealing with our own triggers and being able to go into these situations just so cool and calm that you're unfazed and not pulled into the war of emotions, you know.
I'll just. So you guys, are you a big organization or just a few people like I've seen that really good speech you gave, or are you guys going to get bigger and help, or are you going to amalgamate with any groups, or are you just independent, totally independent down there in good old Cork, a place I've never been to, sadly, and I'm Irish and I'm disappointed in that.
Well, you missed out big time. You should have gone south to Cork before you left Ireland, but sure, you'll come and visit sometime, I'm sure. I'm not part of any particular group, you know, and there's a lot of people calling for unity, and the problem with unity is that leaders can be controlled, but I think what we need is cooperation. We all have one enemy, which is the opposite of truth and freedom, and we all need to go after that every way possible, lawfully, and keep our integrity intact. So yeah, we're just people. Like I've come across people from all over the world in these groups and from all over the country, and I meet people at all the different rallies, and there's no one political group, we're just people. That's the group we fall under. And if we can stay independent of each other and just keep focused, that we need the cooperation to keep the pressure on and bring the wrongdoers to account eventually. So we keep our freedom, our bodily integrity, and our access to justice. That was the message down in Cork the other day. Truth, freedom, bodily integrity, access to justice.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Kate. Remember, united we stand, divided we fall. So I don't know how that will work. But it was really good to see young people coming out and doing something, and it's happening here as well. Things have changed. People have forgotten. I mean, the freedoms we had. I remember Ireland, like rabbits. People had rabbits. We had them here in Australia. They took the rabbits away. They poisoned the rabbits. They poisoned the blackberries. They took all the free foods and all the things. But one thing they can't take away from people is God-given rights. Anyway, I'd like to thank you, Kate, from coming all the way from Cork and Ireland to talk to us here in Melbourne. And we hope that people see this and spread the little bit of word around. And I'd like to thank you again, and we will catch up another day. How about that?
Yeah, thanks for your time, and good luck, everybody. We have a fight ahead of us.